Welcome to the Pat White Show. Let's get into it.
This is Sparta!
Hello, everyone, and I'd like to take time out of my many discussions with you folks to do something on a personal basis. And this is not party related, political related, or anything. This has to do with relationships with people. It was just announced that Fort Wayne Mayor Tom Henry revealed that he has stomach cancer, and it's in a latter stage. And it's going around to some of the other parts of his body's lymph nodes and what have you. And I'm aware of this because it took the life of somebody that in my family that I happen to know about. So I understand what it is. And obviously, you hope for the best, you pray for the best, but this one's a tough one to deal with. But I want to talk about Tom Henry personally. I have known Tom for, somewhere 45, 50 years. In my job, I was in sales and marketing back in my youth and have been most of my adult life. And I have met Tom on a number of occasions, not in city council. I've actually been to his office. He and I sat down and talked when he was a city councilman. And we discussed issues on a regular basis, like two guys. Yes, we come from different political persuasions. Tom is what I call an old school JFK type Democrat. That's where his concept comes from. He's a JFK Democrat. And those are not the same, I believe, as people today in the Democrat Party. But Tom was old school that way. His family, I've known the Henry family. I've worked with the other Henrys in his family. It's a big group of people. I've known him for a long time. And when I was back on the radio, whenever I wanted to talk about an issue before city council, I'd call up Tom. I'd say, hey, Tom, can you come in? We can talk. You know what? Tom always came in. Always came in. And we talked all the time. And we would talk off the air about things. We just discussed stuff. And when he ran for mayor, I thought to myself, it's worth a shot. Well, I just did a story about the 50 top run cities in the United States. 50 top cities. Fort Wayne came in 7th. And in my opinion, this is my opinion, I'm not talking for anybody else or anywhere else, I think he had a lot to do with that. Yes, he's been elected at mayor times, probably more than anybody else. Maybe not, I don't know. But he's been elected a number of times. Other people have run against him and other people have lost. Was I in favor of Tom Henry as mayor? Frankly, in Fort Wayne, we have a weird city. They want to have city council run by one party and the mayor run by a different party. This goes back to Graham Richard. This goes back to Win Moses. I've known all those mayors. Paul Helmke, known all of them. I've known every one of them. And yet the one I had the most amount of pleasantry with, the most amount of one-on-one talking as regular guy talking to a guy, was with Tom Henry. He was a friend. Not, like a drinking buddy friend, but he and I got along together. Regardless of our parties, we got along. So he's going to be undergoing some tough times. But I want people to understand that I believe that he was instrumental in turning Fort Wayne into one of the top run cities of the United States, number 7, according to this document that was just released. And that's something to be proud of. I wish him well, and I want him to know that, man, I'm hoping for his recovery 100%. He and I may not be of the same political persuasion, but I respect him as a human being, I respect him as a man, and I respect him as a friend. And you know what? In today's world, you can't do much better than that. That's my opinion. I don't know what yours is, but now you know mine. Coming up next. Hello, everyone, and welcome back into the Pat White Show. We're going to be talking about cities. Well, namely the top 50 cities in the United States, according to a national magazine, had to do with they considered the best run cities in the United States, the top 50. Now, I'm only going to review 7 cities because I only care about those 7. Actually, I care about 1. And I'm going to tell you what it is. Take a look. Number 7 city in the United States for the best run city, is Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's right. Fort Wayne is the number 7 city in the United States according to this national ranking. And I'll give them credit on that. They've got a lot of good stuff going on in the city of Fort Wayne. That's the infrastructure. That's how this city runs. Everything you consider in the city, that's how they rank this. Fort Wayne came in number 7 of the top 50 cities in the United States. Number 6, Lincoln, Nebraska. Lincoln, Nebraska, fine city. If you like Nebraska, still a fine city. They came in at number 6. Number 5, Provo, Utah. Now, I used to live in Utah years ago. I lived in Ogden. Provo's north of that. But Provo, Utah came in at number 5 as the best run city. Then number 4, believe it or not, is Boise, Idaho. That's right. Good old Boise, Idaho is the number 4 city on the list of the top cities. Number 3 is Nashua, New Hampshire. Don't know much about New Hampshire, never been there, but they're ended up number 3 on the best run cities in America. Number 2, closer by, is Lafayette and Lexington, Kentucky. Lexington, Kentucky is number 2 on the list. So the question is, who do they consider the best run city in America? This is a city I'd never heard of in my life. Napa, Idaho. Now, Napa is apparently a suburb west of Boise. Don't know much about them, but they are ranked number 1 in the United States. Well, here's the thing I want to say about ranking. As far as my opinion goes, the mayor of Fort Wayne is Tom Henry. Tom and I have known each other for probably 40, 45 years, maybe longer than that. Our politics are 100% opposite. He comes from the Democrat side, the old school Democrats. I'm more of a conservative. But we have known each other, been friends with each other, and have dealt with each other on a friendly basis for many, many years. I'm going to give the mayor and his staff credit for putting Fort Wayne as some of the best run cities in the United States. Now, you may not agree, but I'm telling you the way it is. Mayor Henry has done a good job, but unfortunately, Mayor Henry was just diagnosed as having stomach cancer. And that, folks, is never a good sign. He lost his wife recently to cancer, and now he's facing the same plight. My heart goes out to Mayor Tom. I've known Tom for a long time. We were friends. Yes, we're not political teammates, I can guarantee you that. But we are friends. When something like that happens to a friend, my heart goes out to him. And I'm hoping for the very best. I hope medical science can help him out. Not sure how that's going to work out. Not sure how life is going to be for Tom, but I'll tell you right now, my hat's off to Tom. My hat's off to the city. Number 7 for the best run cities in the United States. That's how I feel about that. And now you know. Coming up next. Hello, everyone, and here is a story today involving the media and how powerful forces can decide to go against the media in ways that you could not imagine. Now, right now, we say the media is pretty much in the pocket of the Democratic administration, and it's proven itself out to be 100% true. However, when someone in the media decides to turn away from the, quote, company line, they may be subject to being, canceled, erased, removed, call it what you will. Here's a perfect example. Catherine Herridge. She's a lady who's a reporter, was a reporter for Fox News for a number of years, left Fox and joined CBS. For reasons I don't know, but she's a reporter, she's a senior reporter. She knows a whole lot of people. She's kind of on the inside, a lot of stuff. And she's been doing it for many years. So she's a smart lady. She covers a whole bunch of stuff and has plenty of sources that tell her things that probably a lot of those places don't want to know about. Well, it turns out Catherine Herridge, and along with about 20 other people, were laid off by CBS. Well, what makes this even more important is they have sealed up her files. And according to other sources, they have gone through her files and especially her list of secret sources and have cleared those or done something with them because apparently she was working on a story or stories that apparently were unwelcome by the Biden White House and the Democratic powerhouses. She might have been writing something about somebody that could cause people a lot of friction, make things bad. She's a reporter. That's what her job is, the Fifth Estate. But she walked out of her office, all of her files, all of her data. They said, oh, we're sending that to her. She'll get all that. CBS said. So, is it possible that now the powers that be are even turning on the media, who is supposed to be their best friend, if they are afraid somebody is going to release something, a story on their side, their tribe? Is that what this is all about? I don't know, but it's not being reported. But Catherine Herridge has been dismissed by CBS, and yet all of her files and all of her data and all of her information was kept. What don't they want her to get out, or what don't they want her to be able to tell the American public? And you can see it right there. New York Post, CBS seizes confidential files of fired reporter pursuing Hunter Biden laptop story in unprecedented move, sources. Now, what I'm telling you about that is this is important because the individual we're talking about is by the name of Catherine Herridge. And Catherine was a reporter at Fox News for a number of years, left Fox to go to CBS. She is considered one of the best reporters at digging into stuff. I mean, she covers stuff that most people can't find. She's got incredible sources. She is an investigative reporter of the best of the best. Now, when she was fired, 20 other people were fired, but that's where it gets kind of weird to me. If 20 people are fired, does that? But they weren't all very powerful people like she was. I mean, these are just some of the average people that you're getting rid of. But when you fire a high-powered reporter, considered probably one of the best in the business, that raises some alarms. Now, if they'd have done that just individually, that'd be a bigger thing. But now 20 people got fired. They can say, well, there's a whole lot of people got let go. Well, was that a cover? That's what some people are asking. I'm not the one asking. Some other people are asking this. But there's a concern that something's going on, that she had notes on something. She's got incredible notes, incredible sources. But here's the deal. When CBS fired her, they tossed her out the door, but kept all of her notes and sources. Now, that's a little bit unprecedented. That's what's got people talking. And that's a concern. Here's the reason. CBS has said in a memo they put out, she'll receive all of her stuff in a certain number of days. She's going to get her stuff down the road. They're saying she'll get all of her stuff. Well, but what that doesn't tell me is, did someone at CBS and someone in a department go through all of her stuff to get her information on sources? A story that she's writing that may be very bad for, I don't know, the administration, Hunter Biden, maybe somebody else. I don't know. But people are starting to ask questions about this, saying something ain't right here. And believe it or not, something may be not right. I don't know. I'm just telling you what's going on so that you understand that now even the New York Post is questioning why Catherine Herridge was fired. And, well, she can be fired anytime. Everybody works at someone's pleasure, okay? That's not a big deal. But why did they keep all of her secure notes, her sources, and all the other stuff that would normally be given back to an investigative reporter? They said they're going to give it back to her eventually. But what if somebody went through it to dig for something, plus to find out her sources that gave her information and leak that to somebody else? I'm just saying, is something going on in Washington, D.C. that really smells? Some places are starting to look at it, and they're coming to the conclusion something's not right. Now you know, just my supposition here, but there's the New York Post story. It's not mine. Decide for yourself what you think is right. That's all I got for right now. See ya. Coming up next. Hello, everyone, and welcome into another episode of The Pat White Show. Today, we're going to be discussing the potential presidential candidate from the Democratic Party in 2024. Now, as you know, I said I believed it was going to be Michelle Obama who would be appointed at the Democrat convention, stepping for Joe Biden. You have to understand, things are coming out about President Biden all the time, and it's making very, very difficult for the Democrats to say he's their guy. Now, they want to win regardless, so they will do anything to win. But the problem is they've got to find someone right to run that Biden will allow to happen. Sort of like what happened with LBJ back in the late 60s when he said, I ain't running again. Okay, so Joe Rogan, he's a great podcaster, got a big one. A lot of folks watch what he says to say. His projection is the person who's going to be selected at the Chicago convention for the Democrats will be California Governor Gavin Newsom. Now, if you don't know, Governor Newsom is about as slick as it gets. He has been running multiple television ads in red states to try to get people in red states to say, well, if we don't like Biden, we don't like Trump, hey, they put Gavin in there, I can vote for him, he's my kind of guy. He's about as far to the left as I am left-handed. And the things he's done in California are the beyond the pale. California's got people moving out. Now, you think about it. California has never had people move out, and they're moving out in droves. Ask the people at U-Haul. They'll tell you. He's their salesman of the month. Now, but having the idea of Gavin Newsom, that's been a point that's been considered by many because he is young, he's smooth, he looks good, and he might be the guy to say, hey, I'm the guy better than Biden. I'm younger than Biden. I'm younger than Trump. Vote for me. Will that happen at the Democratic convention? I do not know. Because I thought, hey, Michelle Obama would be the one. But there are those who are saying she wants nothing to do with politics. And if that's the case, the Democrats got to find somebody. They got to find someone to run. So could it be Gavin Newsom of California? Yeah, it could be anybody. Now, who could the Democrats choose to be their lead dog in the pack, their candidate for president? Now, these are the names that are currently being floated around in the Democratic Party for who could run the country. Let's see if any of these are folks you would vote for. First one, Gavin Newsom, California. He's the governor. Has been going around every red state out there campaigning in a shadow campaign, trying to get the nomination. He's trying it in the worst possible way because he wants it. And imagine him doing to the United States what he did to California. Yeah, think about that one. Number 2 on the list, Gretchen Whitmer, governor of the state of Michigan. Now, saying, well, she's a nice lady, looks pretty, runs Michigan. Michigan's a big state, a lot of votes. Could she be the president of the United States? She seems to think that she is, and she'll be ready. How about another one? All right, let's go up to Minnesota. Amy Klobuchar, senator of Minnesota, President Klobuchar. That's an interesting one. So anyway, that's another name being floated around by the Democrats. Now, if you don't like her, how about Cory Booker of New Jersey? You've seen him on TV. You watch the C-SPAN. You see how those. He's on there, and he's Cory Booker. And he used to be the mayor of a big city in New Jersey. I don't remember what it was. But he could be in there. Black, looks good, speaks good. He could be another potential president for the Democrats. Now, there's one I've never heard of. His name is Roy Cooper. He's the governor of North Carolina. Apparently, he's very popular. I don't know that. And then another governor by the name of Wes Moore, who's of Maryland. Black, could be a possibility. But here's the latest one that I'm hearing. Are you ready? This comes from the Obama administration. How about Janet Rice? That's another name that's being floated out there as a potential possibility to run for the presidency, appointed by the electors, the candidates at the Chicago convention this summer. How about that? Ms. Rice from the Obama administration as President Rice. Woo! There's another one. The names are flying. That's on the Democrat side. Let's see what would happen on the Republican side. Maybe with, a woman vice president. Could happen. We have one now. Just something to think about it. Give you the names of people possible for the presidency of the United States on the Democrat side. And now you know. Coming up next. Hello, everyone, and welcome back into the Pat White Show for another episode. And this one, we're going to be talking about another move that Joe Biden has made to secure young people's votes. I mean, we're talking about the people ages, say, 18 to 24, 18 to 36, somewhere in that particular generation. As you remember, Joe Biden, some time ago, maybe a couple of years ago, said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to forgive student loan debt. And there was like $2 trillion of student loan debt. And he said, I'm going to forgive it. And just say, hey, all you folks out there with these degrees that, frankly, you got that nobody cares about, and you're working as bartenders or flipping burgers, we're going to forgive your loan. So you don't have to pay it. Now, a lot of them weren't paying it anyway. I mean, they just said, hey, what are you going to do to me? Arrest me? No, they weren't going to do that. But they're just going to just forgive the loan. And people sued. And they said, wait a minute, you can't do that. You're going to cause inflation. You take money out of the system that's supposed to be paid. Inflation's going to go up. Well, so people sued. Well, that case ultimately went to the United States Supreme Court, where it did. And then the Supreme Court ultimately, with their the way they do things, they came down with their ruling. And their ruling said, hey, you can't do what you're planning on doing as being an executive, the president, the executive officer of the country. Can't do that. The only people who can do it is Congress. Congress approved the dollars. Congress has got to approve the, giving away of the dollars if that's what they're planning on doing. He said, executive, president, you can't do it. So the president said, oh, well, okay, fine. Well, then he realized that his election ain't going too very well. His reelection is kind of going in the toilet, and he says, hey, I got to figure out some way to get those young people to vote for me because they're mad now because I didn't get their debt taken away. So the president said, well, what's the Supreme Court going to do to me? Nothing. Can't do anything to me. I'm president. So what Biden did was he went and changed the rules involving the student loan applications, the repayment rules. He just said, okay, with a pen, I'm going to change this rule, change this rule, change this rule, and now I'm going to start forgiving debt. So he had forgiven another $1 billion worth. Now he's doing it again. And he was out in California and he said, the Supreme Court told me I couldn't do it. Watch this, I did it anyway. This is blatant, folks. And all this is going to do is to make the dollar worth even less. And you do that, your spending is going to go up because it's going to take more dollars to buy whatever it is you buy. Now, if you don't mind having your dollar worth less than it already is today, well, you can applaud this. But the only reason he did this was for votes. He needs to get the young people vote, the college so-called educated ones who don't want to pay their student loans. By the way, I paid for everything I had. Nobody paid for any of mine, just so you guys know. I didn't know anything because I didn't borrow anything. I worked my way through college. I paid my college. So I didn't know anything. But Biden says, I need the votes. I'm going to sell my soul to the devil, and that's exactly what he's done. So, if you think about it, just say, hey, my dollar's worth less. Why? Because student loans have been forgiven by Joe Biden. Something to keep in mind as you run down life's road. See ya. Coming up next. Hello, everyone, and welcome back into the Pat White Show. If you are a taxpayer, if you're an American taxpayer, this is something you might want to listen to because this directly affects you in one way, shape, or form. Here's the deal. We've all heard about the discussions involving Ukraine and the fact Russia invaded it, and the war has been going on for, well, almost 2 years now, and there's still no end to it. And Congress has been fighting back and forth as to who gets money, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's for Israel, whether it's all these different areas, and they've been arguing back and forth about who gets funded, who gets the money. And right now, people are saying, "Hey, we got to put the money into Israel. We got to put the money into the Middle East, into places that it really is needed." And it's like we're spending a lot of money that we really don't have, but we're spending money. But the Democrats are arguing very vociferously that we must fund Ukraine, or else they're going to be run over by the Russians, and ultimately the Russians are going to take on NATO, and we're going to have World War III in that particular area of the country because Russia wants to reestablish itself as the Soviet Union. Now, I'm not arguing that. That's probably what they want. But right now, their army is not good enough to accomplish anything. And frankly, the Ukraine folks are holding their own and keeping the Russians at bay. But they say, well, we need more money. We've already put billions and billions and billions of dollars into Ukraine. And they keep saying, well, we need that for safety. Well, now the White House has changed their tactic. And this is the reason I'm talking to you. The White House has changed their tactics and now saying it's important that Ukraine be given the money because the money comes back to the U.S. Now, I never heard that before. Never heard them say that before, but here's the deal. What they said was, well, yes, we give the Ukraine money, but they must buy munitions, arms, whatever they use in the war, bullets, you name it, tanks. They must buy that from the U.S. So here's what we do. We write the Ukraine a check. Here's a check for $100 billion. Then Ukraine writes a check back to the United States to those who produce military weapons, better known as the Military Industrial Complex, MIC, the Military Industrial Complex. And the White House even named some places, and one of them they named was Lima, Ohio. I think they build tanks there. But they said, no, that money comes back to the United States and it supports jobs in the United States. So let's give Ukraine money because they will support jobs and people will have jobs in the United States working in munitions. The Military Industrial Complex. And that's the first time they've ever said that. So now they've changed their tune to say, hey, give money to Ukraine because actually the money comes back and hires American workers. American workers need us to send the money to Ukraine. That's the pitch the White House is giving. Do I buy it? No. But do they have to buy weapons from us? Yes, they do. But Ukraine is pretty well known as a pretty corrupt country, folks. Hey, let's be honest. It's a pretty corrupt country. But where's that money going we're giving to them? I can't tell you. But here's something to think about. Way back in 1963, before JFK was assassinated, he did not want us to get involved with the Vietnam War. He was against it. Didn't want it. And ultimately, he was assassinated. Now, there's a field of thought. There's some people who say it was the military-industrial complex that said, hey, we want this guy out because he ain't funding Vietnam. There's no proof to that. Can't do it. That's a theory that exists. But that's one of the theories that exist. And who's to know what's really the truth? We don't know because Washington, D.C. will cover up anything and everything to paint a narrative that'll fit your beliefs. But I'll tell you right now, the White House is saying we need that money to go to Ukraine. We must spend it there. And there's going to be a government shutdown. Trust me, that's coming between the Democrats. And the Democrats are going to say, if you don't give us money to Ukraine, we're shutting down America. They're going to try it. It's coming. Don't believe me? Just watch. But they're saying the money comes back to America through the military-industrial complex. Now we know who's paying off the senators and congressmen in Washington, D.C. They're bellowing the loudest because they're getting the most amount of money in payoffs. That's the way that works in Washington, D.C. It's, come on, whoever gives us the most money, we'll holler the most for. The military-industrial complex wants money, and they're buying Congress to get it. My thoughts, not yours. My thoughts. That's it for now. See ya. Coming up next. Hello, everyone, and welcome into another edition of the Pat White Show. And today we're going to be talking about another bill that's been introduced in another state that has to do with firearms. Now, if you don't own firearms, this probably isn't going to mean anything to you, but anyone who does own a firearm, this might mean something to you because is it possible to come to your state? Now, this bill has been introduced in the state of New Mexico, and I lived in New Mexico in my youth, and the governor of New Mexico is on hell-bent to outlaw guns, but trouble is, that's tough to do. You know, there's something called the Constitution in there in the Supreme Court. So, she has come up with a better plan. Her plan is House Bill number 137, HB 137, and in it, she and that legislature in New Mexico, it's all Democrat, they are going to say outlawing all, I repeat, all semi-automatic weapons. Now, these are anything that's gas-powered. And when you shoot a gun, a rifle, a pistol, call it what you will, when that round goes off, it creates pressure, it creates a gas. It's what sends the bullet down the barrel. It's a gas. And in the physics, something goes one direction, something's going to go the other direction. Equal and opposite directions. Well, when the bullet, it can cause a slide on the top of a gun to literally go back, pushes it back, so it throws out the old shell, inserts a new one, and the slide goes forward. Operates on a spring system and gas. That's all it does. All semi-automatic weapons operate the same general way, whether it's a 10-22 Ruger, small gun, small 22 caliber rifle, or a big caliber rifle, or a shotgun. Now, you see, that's another interesting thing, because the semi-automatics are also in shotguns. A lot of people have shotguns. They are semi-automatic. I don't know if I've ever seen a bolt-action shotgun. Pump shotguns, yeah, but not bolt-action. But anyway, so she's going to outlaw everything that's semi-automatic. Everything. And outlaw any magazine that contains more than 10 rounds. Now, I have some pistols that shoot 20 rounds. They're 22 calibers, not a big thing. That's what they hold. However, anything that shoots more than 10 rounds in a rifle, in a pistol, whatever, that's going to be outlawed. But finally, the last thing you're going to have to do is register every single one of your guns with the state of New Mexico. And they want all the information on the guns. They want your name, your address. They want the gun, the serial number. All the guns you have, everything needs to be registered in the database controlled by the New Mexico government. That means they know exactly where everyone's gun is. So you may have say, okay, you got a semi-automatic, you register it, but let's say you got some bolt guns. Bolt guns are like bolt rifles. Those are not gas operated, they're run by a bolt. And you have to register those too, because every gun you have, not just the semi-automatic, every gun has to be registered. And what's going to happen is the only guns they're going to exempt are 22 caliber guns, because they say, well, those are just nice little guns for kids to play with, and they don't do anything. I don't know about you, but assassins use 22 caliber guns to kill people. Yeah, they do. And even the Israeli IDF, they use 22 caliber guns. Just saying what they do. So this is New Mexico. This is not Indiana. This is not Texas. This is not your state. This is New Mexico. Will it pass? Probably. Can it be enforced? I don't know. I'm just telling you what's going on. Just a little bit of information for you to understand what's going on in states. Because if one state does it, and it works for them, or they think it works for them, other states could say, hey, that's pretty cool. Let's do that too. All right, you have been warned. Just something to think about. Aside from that, hope you have a great day. See ya. Coming up next. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Pat White Show. This particular edition is extremely important. And I've said other things are important in the past, but trust me, This one is really important. I hope you commit it to memory because it could very well affect you or people you know, or even affect your life. All right, I know it sounds big, but let me get into it. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, out of the state of California, a senator by the name of Portofino introduced a bill, Senate Bill 1160s, SB 1160. Now, you're saying, I don't live in California. This doesn't mean anything to me. Just wait. Wait till I tell you what's going on. If this bill is approved in the California legislature, it will require every person in California who owns a firearm. I don't care if it's one passed down by your grandpa or old 22 you've got in a closet, pistol, rifle, doesn't matter. It will require you to register it every single year. That's right, not just one time. It's going to be like your license plate. You know, every year you got to go get your license plate renewed. It's an annual thing you got to do. You hate doing it, but every year you go in and you pay a boatload of money to get your plates renewed for the next year. In California, they are going to do the same identical thing, that you will have to register your gun, every gun that you own, and pay the registration fee each and every year. And they're even talking about an initial fee, and I have no idea what that could be. But here's the deal. If you don't do it, you will be fined. At least in this bill, thus far. This bill has not been gone through, adjusted yet, or had anything changed to it. You'll be fined $1,000 for each weapon or rifle or pistol, call it what you will, that you do not register. That's right. California wants to register every single firearm that every person in the state of California owns and charge you an annual registration fee. So that means every year you got to go to whatever bureau they establish, say, okay, here's the guns I have, here's the information, and they're going to get all the information on the guns that you own. I mean, it could require a serial number, whatever, and your name, address, where it is, everything they know about it, because that way they got a database knowing who owns what guns and where they are. This was done back generations ago, and certain countries required this sort of stuff. And you can't believe what that led to. But anyway, so they want to have it done every single year, and they're going to establish a new agency. And that agency will determine exactly how much they are going to charge you every year. And the money that they get in is going to be used for the administration of the agency and enforcement of their new law. Enforcement means what? A police staff, they're going to state a police agency. They're here to check your guns. Have you registered those? I'm telling you, they're doing that. Now, the only people exempt, law enforcement officers will be exempt. But here's the other thing. Now the law enforcement people will be able to go, because this information, this electronic information they are going to gather, will be available to all law enforcement agencies. So what they can do is, let's say you get pulled over in a traffic stop. Police officer can go, beep, 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 take it to his computer. Does this person own a gun? And it'll say, yes, he owns this, this, and this. Check that in his car. You get some sort of traffic ticket, they can check and see if you own a gun. All of this is being proposed in the state of California. And if you don't register every gun, you're facing a $1,000 fine. And for repeated, they haven't outlined what they're going to do on repeated yet. If you do this multiple times, they could expand it even to include your time in the Gray Bar Hotel. That hasn't been done yet. I'm just telling you, this was introduced in the dark of night at 9 p.m. at night on February the 14th in California. 9 p.m. at night is midnight on the East Coast. This bill has not gotten out. Nobody's seen it. But I got to tell you, it was introduced, Senate Bill 1160. Will it pass? I don't know. But I'm telling you right now, here's what could happen. You're going to say, well, that's unconstitutional. No. You can still own a gun. There's no problem with that. There's nothing stopping you owning a gun. All they're doing is registering it and charging you for the registration fee to own that gun, just like you do with your cars. So will it pass will it pass court muster? It could very well. Very well. After all, to buy a gun right now, you've got to go through an FBI background check, correct? Government says you got to do that. You have to do that. They're not stopping you owning the gun unless you're a bad guy. But in this case, everybody will know, all agencies will know what you have. And here's the bigger part, folks. If what they're doing in California holds up, I can guarantee you, as the sun comes up, other states will follow suit, and eventually all states will say, we want to know what's going on, who's got guns, because that's new revenue. Understand this. It's new money coming in. Let's say they charge you $100 for every gun. If there's 3 million guns out there, multiply that times 100, do the math. How much money is that? It's an exorbitant amount of money. And it's not a set price. It can be raised every year based upon the needs of the department that's doing this. So it's like rent. You can pay more next year, the following year, because they say, well, we got to employ more people, we got to pay them more money. Our cost of operation has gone up, so we are raising the fee on your registration of your firearm. You ready for that one? If you don't think that's big, you, son, are living under a rock, because that is the biggest way to then know exactly who owns a firearm, where those firearms are, and if anytime they're saying, we've got to protect America, we've got to collect all the arms. This was done in other countries many years ago. And you know what it led to? You don't want to know, do you? That's what's going on. Senate Bill 1160, introduced in California, 9 p.m., February 14th, by Senator Portantonio. I don't know who he is, but if this passes, ladies and gentlemen, it'll probably pass court muster, because it isn't banning anybody from owning. They're just saying, hey, like a car, you got to pay your annual fee to own your rifle. Coming up next. Hello, everyone, and welcome into another edition of the Pat White Show. Today, we're going to be discussing insurance that could affect you. Now, what I'm going to tell you about is right now a proposal, but it's sitting in the legislature of the state of California. Now, I can't guarantee that California is going to adopt this or the governor is going to sign this, but I'm telling you what's in the mind of legislators in the state of California. And that could affect you regardless of what state you live in, because insurance companies have a habit of saying, well, if it went to California, it's going to go east, so let's put it into everybody's insurance policies. Unless your particular state tells the insurance companies, no, we don't want that information being given out. Okay, here's the deal. What's being proposed in the state of California is this. When you sign up for your homeowners or renters insurance that we all have, you are now going to have to provide answers to additional questions. And here are some of the questions. Do you own a firearm in your home? Yes or no? How many firearms do you own? There's a number. Are the firearms kept in a locked and safe location within your home? Yes or no? In your car, is there a firearm carried in your car? Yes or no? Is it locked in a safe location within the car? Kind of like your glove compartment, that kind of stuff. Yes or no? Now, those are not the exact questions, so please understand I'm not saying the exact questions, but this is a Bill AB 3067 in California. And the insurance company is going to have to ask this of you when you're getting your policy. Now, you may say, I ain't going to tell them. I ain't going to tell them what that information, they don't need to know that stuff. Here's the problem. Let's say you have a claim. And let's say, I don't know, they discover that you've got guns in your house. Let's say you have a house fire. Adjusters come in, hey, they find the remnants of guns in the house. Guess what the insurance company can do? Deny your policy, not pay for the damage, because you lied on your insurance certificate. Lying on your insurance certificate means they can void the policy. Keep that in mind. Now, make it even more fun. The new law, if enacted, okay, that's what I said, if enacted, will then require the insurance companies to provide that information involving guns, locked up, all the other stuff, to the state of California Justice Department. When the insurance companies get the info, they give it to the state Justice Department so they know exactly who's got guns, maybe how many guns they have, where they're located. Registrations. It's a backdoor registration. It's kind of weird, but it tells them who has guns. And that information is not available just to the Department of Justice. It's available by electronic data because you can put up a database. You just boop, 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 write it in, and bingo, up comes a number. So when they put it in your address, say a police officer, if they have access to this, which they probably will, police officer can then just type in your address and see a homeowner's policy. Oh, he's got guns in his house. Oh, he's got guns in his car. That's all they got to do. That's proposed in California. You may not like it, but that's a law being considered for signing in California. Now, you may not live in California. That's fine. But trust me, laws like this have a habit of going from west to east. And that's where you live. So, something to know about, you might want to ask your insurance man, your insurance people, or even your representatives or senators of your state saying, you can allow that crap to happen in this state? Just saying. Now you know what's going on. It's AB number 3067 in the state of California. California, here you come. That's all I got. See ya. Coming up next. Hey, Pat White here. What do you say we talk about something different than politics or any other weird stuff? What do you say we go into the field of sports? How about the field of collegiate football, namely the NCAA football? As you know, Nick Saban just retired from Alabama. He's 72 years of age. He's had 7 national championships, considered one of the greatest football coaches of all time. But he recently retired from Alabama, and he's an analyst now on Fox Sports or whomever it happens. That caught my attention, and that has to do with NIL. Now, some of you may not know what NIL means. It means name, image, and likeness. Now, that's the term they came up with because the rules changed and said that, you know, those college kids, well, they're going to college, they're getting a free scholarship, they're getting all the education they need. So when their college days are done, they can utilize a career, something they learned in college, hopefully, because you're not going to last forever in football. If you make it into your 30s, that's a pretty big deal as far as football goes, because it's a grueling sport. And so they say, well, you get this college degree, and it's really something you could fall back on when you're out of football. But there are people that said, no, we can't do that because we're making a lot of money off these college teams, the big national teams, the big colleges with their big athletes, and they're being drafted and everything else going on. So they came up with this plan to pay college players based upon their name, their image, and their likeness. What they're doing is schools are paying, or donors, wink, wink, donors are paying kids to attend their particular college, the one that they want them to attend. There's one case, Archie Manning's nephew, I think it is, his son is playing at the University of Texas, or his nephew is playing at the University of Texas. He rode the pine, didn't play anything. He made $2.3 million as a college student. Name, identity, and likeness. $2.3 million. This is what it's come down to. Schools are now paying athletes. And the bigger schools are paying the big athletes big money. The bigger the school, the bigger the draw, the bigger the money. Now, Saban said, hey, you know what? If you're going to keep doing that, because teams are losing players, there's no allegiance anymore. You play at one school, you go, hey, another school's going to pay me more money. I'm going to that school. That's what's going on. So Saban says, you know what they need to do in college? They need to do the same thing they're doing in pro sports. Put a cap, a salary cap, on how much any given team can spend on an NIL player. So you're saying, well, our salary limit is so much, so we can pay this player to come in. You get the bigger players getting more money, the lower players getting less money, but there's a cap. Now, he said that's the only thing you got available. Yeah, well, the problem is it ain't going to work. Tell you why. Because donors don't care. Donors will pay whatever they want to pay to whomever they want to pay it. I've seen it before. It goes on. It's going on now, and it was going on in the past, and it'll go on if you put a salary cap. That's what we're looking at, folks. College kids are not worrying about college degrees and getting that education. They're different. They're worried about being paid and getting the most money they can while they're in college. So are they professionals? In my opinion, yes. But NCAA said, oh, they're amateurs, and they can't be professional until they get an agent. They don't need an agent, folks. All they need is somebody with big money handing it to them. Think about that. That's all I got. See ya. Coming up next. Hello, everyone. Welcome in for another episode of The Pat White Show. Today, we're going to be talking about inflation. Inflation is when the price of things go up. And unless you've been living under a rock, recently the prices have gone up pretty good. Well, the folks over at Consumer Affairs, and I figure you got to trust them. Who else are you going to trust? Did some number crunching, and they have determined that, hey, prices have been going up. As a matter of fact, they looked at the highest state for the amount of prices increased. Happens to be a big voting state, a swing state, if you will. The state is Pennsylvania. Turns out grocery inflation, that's what we're talking about, grocery inflation, in the state of Pennsylvania in 2023 had the highest at 8.2% increase over last year. Now, let's take a look at another state. How about Colorado? Colorado, average couple there last year spent $750, average family of four rather, spent $750 for groceries. Well, now they're spending $21.75 more, same stuff, this year. People in Pennsylvania are spending $61.50 more than they spent last year. And here's the big number. In the entire time during Trump's administration, inflation prices went up roughly 4%. Okay, that's the total years. The total years went up 4%. During the Biden years, inflation has gone up 22%. You want me to repeat that? Under Trump, 4%. Under Biden, 22%. Now, I don't know how many of you out there go grocery shopping. My wife does, and occasionally I do. And I'm telling you, things are getting expensive. They say, oh, don't worry, inflation is coming down. They don't grocery shop, do they? They don't have a clue what they're doing. My wife just told me yesterday she wanted to buy a can of corn. Plain everyday can of corn, right? Have that with a meal. She said the cost of the can of corn, are you ready? $2.50. That's a pretty expensive can of corn. Can of corn for $2.50? She said, I remember when it was 79 cents. Frankly, so do I. Things I remember were inexpensive ain't inexpensive anymore. You know, I look at a box of cereal and I'm going, man, boxes of cereals now, they gotten skinny. I mean, they're a lot thinner. You know, they used to be wide, packaged things, put a toy, whatever into them. Now they're skinny. So you're getting less. But they say, well, it's the same price as it's always been. Yeah, but you're getting less product. If you used to get, say, 12 ounces before, you're now getting 10 ounces. The box is skinnier. That's what's happening in the world of inflation, folks. If you think it's coming down, Consumers Affairs says, no, it ain't. And where it's hitting people the most is at the grocery store. And I can guarantee you one thing: people vote with their pocketbooks. It's going to be interesting to see how this fares out because inflation is a nasty animal, and you and I can see it every single day. How's that going to work out in the 2024 election? No one knows yet. People are predicting, but can anybody say with exactly what it's going to be? I don't think so, not yet. But boy, the cost of eating has definitely gone up. Just something to ponder. Coming up next. Hello, everyone, and welcome into today's lecture on the Pat White Show. And as you can see on the screen, I'm going to be talking about something that most people hate. And I mean hate with a passion. Those self-checkout lanes that you see at the grocery store, at the Walmart, at the Kmart, or wherever you mart shop. And you know what? Turns out that the stores are finding out that, hey, these self-checkout things are not exactly what you thought they would be. It's called shrinkage. Shrinkage is a nice fancy word for theft. And apparently the stores are finding out their amount of theft, shrinkage, if you will, is growing rapidly. And one of the biggest places they find that theft goes on is at the self-checkout lanes. Now, I don't know about you, but the store figured out, we do self-checkout, we could cut down the amount of labor that we have. The people hired to check out your stuff, cash register. Yep, all right. They thought, well, self-checkout. We'll just have one person standing there watching stuff. Trust me. I go to the store, use the self-checkout because none of the grocery lanes are open, okay? I'm going to tell you right now, there may be one or two open, and they got people lined up to the back of the store. You're stuck with losing the self-checkout whether you like it or not. Well, self-checkout lanes are supposed to be for, 10 items or less? 10 items or less. I've seen people there with multiple grocery carts because they don't want to go through the checkout lane. That's where you find the theft going on. There's so much stuff they've got. People end up not putting it in there. They just don't scan it, don't put it on the counter so it can be weighed. They just put it in the grocery cart and steal it. Well, now the places like Target and the grocery stores like, Walmart, finding out the amount of theft that they're having is going up exponentially. And they got to do something about it. So what they're doing is they're deciding to shut down the self-checkout lanes or only allow people with 10 items or less into the self-checkout lanes where they can watch them and prevent them from stealing stuff. Is it working? I don't know. Are people a lot happier knowing they got to go through a checkout lane? Yes, some people are, and some people are not. Some people with just a couple of things, and I'll have 2, 3 things. I want to go through the quick lane, get in, get out. I don't need to chat with somebody. I don't need to worry about putting stuff on the belt and getting stuff. I don't need to do that. So for me, sometimes the self-checkout works. But if you're a store worrying about people stealing stuff, self-checkout lanes are not the plan you want. So now we know that stores around the United States are refiguring their plan about using self-checkout. Hasn't worked out as well as they thought it would. And as a matter of fact, more people are stealing stuff at the self-checkout lane than they possibly ever realized. And they're in there to make money. Stuff being stolen means you don't make any money. Just saying, folks. Coming up next. And hello, my internet friends, and welcome in once again to this edition of the Pat White Show. Got some news for you. If you happen to be one of those people who subscribe to YouTube TV, this is sort of the thing that took cable's place. Many folks have it. I'm one of those people. I've got the service. And in fact, I know people who do have the service. Well, guess what's going to happen next month? Well, next month, get ready for an $8 increase in your monthly service fee. That's right. It's going up approximately 13%. That's right, 13% increase because, the folks at YouTube TV say, it's not because of the football packages that we carry. It's other stuff. Programming costs have increased, but it's not that college football stuff, which frankly is BS. College football is requiring the television networks to pay an exorbitant amount of money for the contracts in which to be able to watch their games. And frankly, more college football teams are joining the big conferences to get a bigger share of the monetary pie. So, if you happen to have YouTube TV, like me, be prepared to pay 13% more. Now, if you think it's not worth 13%, you have every right to cancel. But you can go back to cable TV. Of course, cable TV is about to be a dying commodity, whether you like it or not. So there's the skinny. New news that I'm sure that you're thrilled with getting. But, hey, it's the price we pay for the ability to enjoy our favorite college team, isn't it? Gee, it makes you wonder, who's really making the bucks here? Just a thought. That's all I got for now. See ya. Bye now. Well, that does it for today's edition of the Pat White Show. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure to follow us on social media for the latest Pat White Show, for all the news and updates. And stay tuned for brand new episodes of the Pat White Show coming real soon. Like what you're hearing? Make sure you don't miss an episode by following the Pat White Show on Spotify. Just search for the Pat White Show, hit follow, and get ready for insightful conversations delivered straight to your Spotify feed. If you enjoy watching podcasts as much as listening to them, good news! The Pat White Show is also on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel now for visual content, behind-the-scenes footage, and full podcast experience. Find us on YouTube at the Pat White Show channel.